Hello, joyful ones. Welcome to the Choose Joyful Health channel. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Joan Craig, and today I have a wonderful guest with me, Rachel Strivelli. Thank you for being here,
Oh,
Rachel.
hi, I'm glad to be here. Hello, joyful ones. I love being
Yeah,
in joy, so this is a good place to be.
yeah. And I could say many amazing things about Rachel, but you're going to hear from her today. And today we're going to dive into a big topic. Rachel's up for the job, which is how to move forward on your goals and your dreams in life, even when life feels crazy. But one of the reasons that I want to bring Rachel on the channel is that when we first connected, I think we both automatically felt like there was some shared values around nature and around protecting the environment and using nature as a way to increase our health and increase our vitality and increase our ability to succeed in life. So I know that people who find this video, I hope they will share those values as well. And so when you're working with your clients, what kind of obstacles are they typically facing? Obviously
Mm,
we keep everyone's personal details confidential, but
yes.
like in my work, most of the people I work with are like really around musculoskeletal issues, like they have posture
Mm-hmm.
issues or scoliosis or things like that. So are there things
Mm,
you find people come to you to that they identify they need help?
mm-hmm. Yes, there are definitely certain themes. And what you said about connecting the dots, that's something that is one of the themes, or the way some people put it is, I know I need to take a next step, but what is it? I don't know. Or if I just knew what the next step is, either in my business or this relationship or job hunting, then I would do it, but I have no idea what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like
so,
they're kind of feeling stuck.
yes, and also in this transition place of almost like you've gone as far as you can get yourself, and you need something to move you to that next
Right.
place, mindset, position, new perspective. And I have also experienced that myself when I've worked with other people and they've been the one coaching or teaching me. Is I've developed a pretty good awareness of when I know my own limits and when I think,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now I need help to go to the next step. Another thing that people come to me for is if they have been putting their own needs and desires on the back burner for too long, sometimes they
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's a whole lifetime,
Yeah.
and saying yes to everyone. And sometimes that happens in personal relationships, sometimes it's work relationships. They always volunteer for everything, even though their job responsibilities are full time, and yet they keep on taking on new projects because they don't want to let down their teammates or their boss or the clients. And so sometimes it can, what I see is almost like we've overextended ourselves. And because we're capable, there's a lot of things that I know that I can do. And in the past few years, I actually like a lot of things about DIY and creating and making. But then I reach a certain point where I think I need to take it down and like really not try and do everything. My son, he's 18 months old, he needs a haircut. And so the other day I said to my husband, okay, well, I'm going to learn how to cut his hair. I'm going to give him a haircut. And he and my daughter looked at me and they're like, why would you do that? You don't know how to cut hair. And I was thinking, oh yes, like I could just go take him somewhere else to do it and spend more time doing what I'm better at, playing in the
Yes.
yard, in the garden, going for a walk, writing, whatever.
Right. So there's a word in Spanish. I think it's a made up word. To-
Oh,
Todólogo. Because
oh,
todo means everything. So
yes.
it's kind of like the Jack or Jill of all trades.
Uh-huh.
So what I'm
Yes.
hearing is that you recognize in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because to me you do, from what I know of you, you strike me as someone who's quite capable and can kind of like probably do anything that you really set your mind to. But I think that's a beautiful wisdom. So you're helping your clients who are stretched too thin, they've overcommitted, and it sounds like you're helping them like reclaim,
Yes.
like go in and be like, oh, but what really makes me feel good? Because I could say no to
Yes.
80% of this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, how it connects to the natural world is I look at plants, for example. In the northern hemisphere and the temperate climate where we live, no plant, okay, there are coniferous plants that have their needles out all the time, but the deciduous trees, they have a period of rest. They drop the leaves, their roots are deep in the ground taking up nourishment, but they're not being fruitful and productive all the time. Same as no flower that I know blooms constantly or is constantly fruiting. And if it is, it's maybe because we've bred those things to do that. No chicken lays eggs every single day. Like most of them will take one day off a week, even if we bred them to be like hyper productive egg layers. And yet, throughout the course of human history, and especially since like the industrial age, we have this expectation for ourselves that we can do it all and do everything. And I just find that really exhausting.
Yes.
And so I think it's good to be reminded, wait a minute, I can have periods of my life that are slower paced, or parts of the week that are slower paced, or seasons, however you want to think of it, where I'm not trying to do 25 different things and be a master at all of them, and I can let some of it rest.
Amen. Yeah. Well, and even within every day, I mean, I relate to what you're saying because sometimes I feel I have to be so freaking productive. And it's like, wait a minute, it's okay to watch the Muppets or, whatever. Take a break, take a nap. So, well,
Yes.
that's right. So just to recap, like what I'm hearing again is that some of your clients feel overstretched, overcommitted. They need to reclaim their own energy, give themselves permission to rest. You help them do that, and you help them define really what those boundaries would look like. And then also this other piece of, um, people feeling kind of overwhelmed, and then just helping people find this solace or this daily reminders in nature. So, do you have, I know, like, I'm sure it's individual for each person, but do you have some like prescriptions for all of us as far as using nature or using in her wisdom, in our own wisdom, and maybe also talk about your term in her wisdom.
Yeah.
That's three questions. So
Oh,
take
I
any of them.
know.
Take any of
Yeah.
them.
So my coach, who I work with, for the longest time, we were going back and forth about names because I would tell her, I'm using the term life coach because it's descriptive and people know what to do with it. They know how to categorize that in their minds, but it doesn't really feel like what I think I'm doing. And for the longest time, I felt that these two things that I was feeling called to do in the world felt very different and totally unique from one another. So there's the part of me that's really connected to the natural world and sustainable agriculture and just being in nature every day and connecting with it and learning about it constantly and seeing it and just enjoying it. And then there's the other part of me that loves books and patterns and people and making the connections and all of that and the empowerment piece. And I kept on thinking, like, how do these even connect? They don't seem like they connect. And over time, we started in conversations with her and lots of journaling. That's one of the ways in which I get to a lot of my wisdom, that and being out in nature. She presented to me, well, what if you try out this phrase, this title of In Her Wisdom, so that I'm rooted in the wisdom of Mother Earth, and that's what guides me forth, and that's how I have a lot of my wisdom that then I also share with others. So it's just a fun kind of
Mm,
title that I'm playing with, and it definitely opens up for conversations in a different way. And depending on who I'm
mm-hmm.
talking to, it might go one way or another.
So
Uh,
inner wisdom, INNER,
yes,
and then
yes,
in her wisdom, meaning like Mother Earth.
yes,
Yeah, and
exactly.
it's really, yeah, I don't think we need to have a separating line there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so what are some of the things that you do yourself
Mm.
and that you encourage others to do? Because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'm pretty intentional with my life, but today I haven't really spent quality time outside. I mean, I did appreciate the
Mm-hmm.
temperature change. It's spring, but and I know when I finish with you, I'm on to the next job. And so, but
Mm-hmm.
for those of us that find ourselves maybe in the car, inside,
Mm.
doing our life, how can we connect more to Mother Nature? What are some suggestions?
Yes, great question. So I think the best way to incorporate a habit that sticks is one of two things. Is to start really small and to make it something that feels enjoyable. So I recently was listening to a podcast where they were talking about habit change and how a lot of people have this idea that it's the repetition that really makes the habits change. And while that works for some things like language learning and whatnot, the linking of it to enjoyment is what is just as likely to solidify that habit. And
Mm,
so, one of the things that each person who's listening will have to consider for themselves is, what do I enjoy about nature? Like, what parts of it feel good? And so that'll be one question to work with. And another thing is, I think if you can already connect it to something that you're doing, then it's easier than if you're all of a sudden just saying, well, now I'm going to spend 20 minutes outside every day. Well, if you don't do that already, that's a really big, even though 20 minutes doesn't sound like much, most people aren't just thinking, well, I got 20 extra minutes, what am I going to do now?
right.
And usually, like a lot of the people I know, if they do, they go pick up their phone or turn on the TV or whatever. Like that 20 minutes really easily just slides into the next thing that you're already in a habit of doing. So let's say if you commute in a car, what I try and do is either once a week or frequently when I think of it, I will try not to put on the music in my car for just a few minutes and start my drive by just looking at the environment around me, looking at the sky, looking at the trees.
Mm.
And one of the reasons I think turning the music off or podcasts or whatever people are listening to is helpful is one of the best benefits of being in the natural environment is it allows us to start hearing our own thoughts and our own feelings that when we're involved in a lot of these other normal activities we're usually not paying attention to. And what I find is over time, if I'm incorporating this quiet time outside, I start to realize things that in the rest of my life I'm not realizing because there's too much either literal noise or like mental noise going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it can also, especially if you're going through like a hard time in your life right now, I feel like it's even more helpful when I'm going through my hardest times. I will just try and sit outside every day for 10 minutes. And I think a walk outside is lovely, but depending on what type of environment you have or how mobile you are, sitting near a window or outside on a porch or a balcony and looking at the sky, looking at the plants or animals or insects around you is just a really easy way to connect back
Mm.
in. And if it's hard to do it, if it's hard to just sit there and do nothing else, then what I suggest is you get a clipboard and a pen or a notebook and doodle or journal about what you're seeing, draw pictures, write. Like, I know some people do the morning pages where they write 3 pages every day. So if you already have a practice of writing or journaling or doodling, taking it outside is a really great way to get some fresh air and reset your mind and your nervous system. It also helps calm the nervous system and really grounds us. And I just find, if I haven't been doing it enough, like in the winter times when the weather is not the greatest, if it's rainy and really cold, or the kids are sick, like we had a February that was like that this year, I wasn't getting out enough. And I started realizing I was getting a little bit of that cabin fever craziness going on. And I knew it was just the lack of sunshine, the lack of movement, the just getting outside for 10 minutes for me is like, I'm a whole different person.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love all those suggestions, and I love how accessible, that you're making it, because, I mean, all of us can turn the radio off in the car and look at nature. And I feel like part of that drive to be productive all the time, like, it's like, oh, I'm taking a walk. I'll also listen to an instructional YouTube video or a podcast, and it's like, I'm recently stopped doing that and, on purpose, just walking and looking and breathing. But in the car, that's a great tip. And how often do we just flip on the radio and the news? Thank you. And also about, I tend to take my nature time in motion, because I love to combine, right? But
Yeah.
I know I would benefit from just being still as well. And actually, in summer, I try to meditate outside on the porch. In the morning, in the winter, I do it on the couch. But I have my eyes closed, but I'm sure I'm still hearing and listening, so that's good. Yeah, good tips. Well, one other thing, and this is really kind of tie back into kind of our overarching theme, and this is like the big question is, okay, I mean, there's always crazy stuff happening in the world, and to me, it feels like, well, now it's crazier than ever. But if we really look at like ancient history, actually our lives are much calmer than it was when, like, you could get just like, killed with a sword walking out down the road or whatever. But or by like some kind of wild beast that lived around the corner. So we could say that life always has its stressors. And, I notice, well, there's a guy named Peter Twist. He's only well known in like the fitness industry, right? But I went to a conference where he was speaking, and he said, we don't rise to the challenge. We sink to the level of our training.
Wow.
Which I think is really true. Like, when we feel stressed, that's when we most need those foundational habits. So
yes,
like, in your inner wisdom and your work with your clients, like, how do you help people move forward on positive directions in their life, even though it feels like so many things out of our control?
Yes, and that is such a good question. And I feel like you say, in some ways, that's an underlying issue that brings a lot of people to me. And it does seem by our perceptions like the world has never been crazier, but you're right. In some ways, it's actually never been so good.
Right.
Yes, there are problems, but also there are conveniences that, I mean, people 200 years ago would have never dreamed of. And so I know one of the most important things that I feel like is always a foundational piece for me. And some of my clients come at this from one direction and some from another. And so I would say either a spiritual or a religious something. And if people are agnostic or atheist, that's okay. For them, they might come at it with, is the universe a positive place or a negative place? And for some people, if you're not religious, it can be as simple as a decision. Like, am I going to believe this is a positive place? Like, and that things are working in my favor.
That's what Einstein said was the only choice in life, right? He said, do you believe the universe is a positive or something like that, right?
Yes,
we'll have to, I'll find the Einstein quote and link it. Yeah,
I love that. I had forgotten. There's so many of his quotes I feel like I pull out all the time. Yeah. So, because here's the thing that I have found when I have been in my like worst times of chaos or anxiety or indecision. Like, I know one time I was living in Vancouver, BC, and we lived in a little bit of a dangerous neighborhood. I mean, not by some people's standards, but the most dangerous neighborhood I had ever lived in. Mm-hmm. And I will say, the fourth day we lived in our apartment, there was a gang shooting, literally that you could see the building from our balcony. Like, it was just literally around the corner. Now, that was an isolated incident, but still, I was already feeling insecure about where we were living, but it was where we could afford, and it was on the bus line, so I could get to school, to grad school. And so I remember calling up my mom one day and talking to her about, what if I get shot in the street, or I'm worried a little bit. And then her and I were talking, and we just got to this point, kind of back to that, of thinking, okay, well, the worst that could happen is I could die, and everything else is not that bad then. So, and kind of reassuring. Yeah, and it's kind of like, you're gonna go and you're gonna go. Now, okay, if I had a terminal illness, that would have been not a great conversation at that time.
Right.
And I'm not belittling, the end of life. And yet I also think to remember, like, when you're done. But until then, if we go along with this idea, this belief, okay, things are working out in my favor, it's going to be okay. No matter what, I'm going to be okay. That has gotten me through so many other times when I felt like I wouldn't have gotten through it if I didn't keep on thinking, it's going to be okay. The universe is a positive place. The world is a positive place. Most people have good intentions. They're not out to get everybody else. And so that, keeping that in my mind, and also if there are other beliefs that you can find that are positive that you can use in the tough times. So I like to have a go-to phrase. Some might call it a mantra or affirmation or whatever, or a quote. And so something that's good enough that it gets me through that hump of the hard time when I'm just crying in a puddle thinking, I can't do this again. I can't go through one more day of whatever it is, sick kids or angry boss that yells at us every day. There's a range of things that could set us all off.
Or the global stuff. Yes, the global stuff, like the news, and we don't need to even go there, but just, the news, right?
Totally. Yes. I know a lot of people that these things can kind of almost unravel them. Yeah. And what I think to myself is, well, I have a plan for my life. I mean, not like a crazy plan with tons of details and dates, but I have things I want to do. And if I get unraveled, I'm not going to do those things. And so in addition to like having a positive belief that you can come back to that will get you through these tough times, is having either a plan or an intention or some type of goal that you feel like does keep you moving forward, which I know is kind of like in your question, like, how do we move forward? You might want to look at, is your goal or whatever it is that you're working for, does it mean enough to you? Because maybe there's something else that means more to you that you're not actually giving your time to and giving like all of your heart to.
That's actually what you and I did in our session. I came to you with one idea of the problem I need to solve, and it actually evolved our conversation to say, actually, we need to put our energy over here.
I know that happens actually a lot. When I meet with people, it's kind of funny.
So what I there's so much we've covered already, but I just
Mm.
feel the need to sort of recap a little bit. So
Yeah.
from what you just said, it's like making sure that you're, Simon Sinek says, what's your why? So
Mm-hmm.
like making sure your
Exactly.
why, your pull is the right one, the right focus for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you can help people with, so that when everything's crazy, whether it's their personal life or the world or the universe, um, they can keep going and making those steps. And then again, just choosing what you said about choosing, is the universe a positive place or not. Another thing I believe is that sometimes the coach lends their optimism to the
Mm.
client. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling that from you as you're talking, because you can talk about these things and still smile.
Yes.
So I feel like that's a strength, that you're lending your own energy a little bit until they get their own oomph going. And
Yes.
then, like, that's how
Yes.
I like, when they get their own oomph going, then you can be like, oh, good, you're ready, go fly.
Yes. Well, and
So
it makes me, I keep on thinking about hiking for some reason,
mhm,
but I think about if I'm walking on a trail with you and it's a really hard trail and you've never been on this trail before, there's going to be moments where you're huffing and puffing and, oh, we got to take a break. I don't know if I want to finish this trail, Rachel. It's too
yes,
long. There's moments you want to give up, but if I know that it's worth it because the waterfall at the end of this is the best,
yes,
then we're going to pause, we're going to regroup, we might even look at where we've come, and then we're going to talk about, well, how about that waterfall we're hiking towards? Yeah, I know it's another hour, but we can do it. And so I feel that some of the things that I help people with, I've either had my own personal experiences with, or I've just read enough and talked to enough people that I have this perspective of, okay, it's easy for any of us to get into the small nitty gritty and think this moment is going to last forever. This failure is going to define me, or this
mm-hmm,
mistake that I made, everybody knows it's going to be terrible. Everything's going downhill. I'm going to be homeless with no money. And but chances are that's probably not the case.
yes, thank you. Yes, my head's gone there many times. That's funny. Well, I feel like there's so much richness we've already talked about, but just sort of to, again, sort of try to bring it all together. So we started out, we talked about that, one of the things you do with people is help them get clarity on their goals. Is it the right goal? And if it is, how are you going to get there? And then helping them maybe get over that sense of overwhelm when they've overcommitted, to really reclaim
Mm-hmm.
their inner wisdom. And then using nature as part of your work, just in addition to the questions that you ask your clients, and the weaving in, it's like, okay, how do we take the wisdom that's around us all the time if we just look?
Exactly.
And I love what you said about, plants are not producing all the time, and we don't have to either. We need a winter, even if it's like
Mm-hmm.
every day, a little baby winter in the day. That's our sleep,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Yes.
and we talked about way more of that. We'll have to go back and enjoy. So I just want to help think about, like, people moving forward, if they wanted to
Mm.
work with you. And I am, obviously, I'm interviewing you because I highly endorse you as a coach. I think you're a great coach.
Oh, thank
I've
you.
experienced it, and just I've been enjoying your YouTube channel and your email list. So obviously people
Mm.
can find out about those. But anything else you'd like to share for people to connect with you and connect to their inner wisdom with your help?
Yeah, sure. So when people, if they know, they're like, oh yeah, I really want to talk to her more, I do a free 20 to 30-minute call just to actually make a connection. And you may do that too,
Mhm,
just because it's really nice to actually get on the phone with somebody or video
mhm.
and see. And that is totally free and easy to do. You can schedule it on my website, and people can work with me for one session, or they can choose to work with me for 4 sessions or for 12. I'm getting ready to launch. It kind of depends on how things go with the health of everyone in my household, because I have two little kids, as we've said, and to a little bit digress, part of what I teach, I'm still always learning, because
We all are.
I had a goal to last month release this course helping people to move forward through the chaos and feeling of concern about the future and the environment, and it's the idea of eco-anxiety, that some people feel like a doom and gloom about what's going to happen to the natural world, what's going to happen to the planet. So I have a course. Well, it's actually, I shouldn't say course. It's a class where we're going to be doing some creative activities and meeting on a Zoom call. And I'm hoping to launch it next week, but my son got sick today. So I'm reminding myself, as long as I keep on taking steps forward and knowing that everything is going to happen at its own time. So anyway, by the time this airs, it will probably be live.
Good.
But if it's not, it's a 6-week course. And when it's not actively running, because I'm not running it continuously, because I can't run continuously, then there will be a waiting list to find out when the next one comes up. But in between, there's still emails that I send out and new videos.
Tell us your website.
Yes. So it's Soul Pioneer. So soul, like the soul within, SOUL, and then Pioneer. Partly that's from my gardening and loving, like charting new territory kind of enthusiasm. So Pioneer, PIONEER. So soulpioneer.com.
We'll link to it. And the course, that's an direct interaction with you in a group setting.
Yes.
So that would be an option for people who, and I'm also going to link to your eco-anxiety video.
Cool.
You and I talked about actually talking more about that on this call, but I found that really helpful. And I think people who are following Choose Joyful Health, as I mentioned, I think mostly share a love for the environment. And I have benefited from the suggestions you made in that video about, first of all, doing the things I can within my power, and then spending time in nature to nurture that connection more. So is there anything else you'd like to add, like about your work, yourself, or your clients, or nature? Any other tidbits you want to give us? So many good things today.
Oh, well, I think I just know that for me personally, so many of my most difficult moments when I have gone to sit outside, I have found peace there and healing and new insight. And also when I'm running out of ideas or people are driving me crazy, I go outside and I connect to this bigger expansiveness. And I think that's one of the things that I think really helps offset the feeling of the craziness and the chaos and the overwhelm and the anxiety, that there aren't as many other places where we get that. If you're in a band, you might feel that, or if you go to a lot of concerts or something. But because I'm thinking of things where people are gathering all around a certain idea, so you might feel it then. But if you're not doing those, or even if you are, to go outside and let the expansiveness of the sky or a lake or the ocean really just sit there with it and feel, wait, I'm part of this big, amazing, beautiful thing that's just pretty much the most beautiful thing ever. I think tapping back into that is what gets us out of our narrow, like, I'm an ant and I'm going through the day doing my little ant things. And oh no, what if somebody tries to take away my ant food? And not knocking ants, of course, but we just get in these little modes, and then, but when we step out and reconnect to all of that awe, I just think, that's what always brings it home for me. So no matter what, I would love if you want to hear more from me and connect to me and potentially do my eco-anxiety course. We're not going to dwell on the anxiety stuff. We're going to dwell on the cool connecting to nature stuff.
Yeah, the positive.
And have crafting and creativity as part of it. and connecting to other cool humans, because I know cool people are going to join. But aside from that, I think just doing more things like this that make you feel that life is good and that it's going in your favor, and connecting to the expansiveness and the awe of the outside world, I think will be a delightful thing.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I think this is, we connected a while back and it's just been evolving naturally. So I'm grateful to connect with you every time. We made this video to help the viewers, but I kind of got a lot out of it myself. So it's great. And thank you. And we'll put all the links below. And then for anyone who wants to connect to Choose Joyful Health, I'll put the links for that as well. So
Excellent.
Thank you and peace.
Yeah.